Mr. Sergeant at Arms, invite the members into the chamber and close the doors. I hereby declare the House of Representatives of the 112th General Assembly of the State of Tennessee now in session. Will the members please stand? Will the visitors in the gallery please stand and remain standing through the Pledge of Allegiance? Representative Clemens will introduce the chaplain of the day. Representative Clemens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is my honor this evening to introduce this body to my good friend, Pastor Eric Ashley. Pastor Eric has been a pastor for 15 years, most recently planting Parks Church, PCA, 4 years ago in the Nations, one of District 55's fastest growing neighborhoods. Eric and his wife, Annette, are from South Georgia originally, but made Nashville their home 9 years ago, and we are so glad that they did. They have a son, Nathan, and daughter, Naomi, at MLK here in Nashville, attending school, a son, Jude, at West End Middle School, and a son, Sam, at Sylvan Park Elementary. And they also have a black lab named Ryman, who's being homeschooled. Pastor Eric wants to express his and his family's gratitude for the work that the women and men of this body do week in and week out, and to communicate that he and his church family pray regularly for us. And we are so blessed that they do. Pastor Eric.
Thank you for allowing me to be with you. Let me lead us in prayer. Our God and Father, we thank you for the opportunity to be here today. God, I thank you personally just for the humility displayed by these men and women to stop and acknowledge you before getting started with business today. I thank you for their calling and their gifting, the way that you've led them to this point, at this time, at this place, and pray that you would be with them in their business. Thank you for the freedom that they have to deliberate, to problem solve, to seek to make Tennessee an even greater place. God, I pray that you would help them. Would you grant them wisdom as they think and debate and talk? Grant them relational grace with one another, that they would care more about relationship than being right, that they would love one another well. Pray that you would grant them protection, keep them and their families safe. God, I pray for the people and the communities that are represented by each man and woman here tonight, for the broken in their neighborhoods, that you would be their healer, for the outcasts, that you would be their friend. And I do pray for the work done here, God, that it would allow and enable a society and neighborhoods that can know and experience the salvation offered in Jesus and the flourishing he came to usher in. We do pray that your kingdom would come and that your will would be done in Tennessee as it is in heaven, and that your blessing might go as far as the curse is found. We pray it in the strong name of Jesus. Amen.
Representative Clemens will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Clerk, please take the roll.
Roll call.
Ms. Clerk, please take the roll.
Mr. Speaker, 94 members present.
Let the journal reflect Representatives Carr, Carringer, and Kumar are excused. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Welcoming and honoring.
Welcome and honor and anyone seeking recognition. Representative Beck.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to welcome as our guest tonight Dakota Galvin, who is a newly elected president of the Davidson County Democratic Party. Everyone make him welcome. All right.
Representative Cochran.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My assistant, Ms. Claire Anderson, has some family and friends visiting. If they would stand, her parents, Richard and Susan Anderson, as well as Marlo Deborah and David Rondani and Matthew Sandstrom. So they're up to my left. Let's make them feel welcome.
Representative Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to request a moment of silence for Sergeant Chris Jenkins with the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office. 4 days ago, on Thursday, February the 3rd, 2022, Sergeant Jenkins was tragically killed while serving in his official capacity as a peace officer. At this time, Mr. Speaker and members, please join me in a moment of silence in memory of Sergeant Jenkins. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Amen.
Representative Lamar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to recognize two of my friends who came to visit me this week at session, Mr. Ron Lazarus and Mr. Chris Adams. Wave and say hello.
Representative Lynn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, let's wish a very happy birthday to Secretary of State Trey Hargett today.
Representative Clemens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If everybody would help me welcome today, Mr. Anthony Lane is a senior and lives in Bellevue. He's represented by Representative Bo Mitchell, but he accompanied our pastor of the day today. So please welcome Mr. Lane.
Representative Faison.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I have my cousin with me tonight and his family. My cousin, this is Andy Ford. He actually runs my pest control business. When I'm up here, he probably does a better job than I do. And that's his wife and his 3 children. Will y'all please make them welcome?
Representative Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to take a moment and just recognize 9 of the graduates who graduated last Thursday with their Associates of Science degree. They are incarcerated at Northwest Correctional Complex, but they graduated with their associates, and I wanted to recognize them.
Anyone else? Representative Parkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if I would like us to please keep the people of Memphis and Shelby County in mind as we deal with the power outages that are affecting a large, or that have been affecting a large part of our communities out there. You know, the ice storm came in and really did some real damage in Memphis and Shelby County. And I also want to say kudos to Memphis Light, Gas, and Water and all of those men and women that work for Memphis Light, Gas, and Water that are working 16-hour shifts to restore power to the households of our citizens. And please, you know, keep our citizens in prayer. You know, there is some suffering that has been taking place because of the power outages. You know, the hotels were filled up, people lost food, and you know, children, and you know, there are people that are on oxygen and have other health needs that this power outage caused some real and true calamity and emergencies for. And so please, if you will, again, keep Memphis and Shelby County in your prayers, you know, as we navigate through the remaining power outages. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Parkinson, recognizing the well.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if we can we have the Tennessee Black Caucus to come up to the well also, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I request that the Sergeant at Arms escort our guest into the chamber.
Mr. Sergeant at Arms, escort the guests to the well, please. Representative Parkinson, you are recognized.
And thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, before I request that the clerk read the resolution, just a quick word to my colleagues in the chamber. I want to publicly thank the speaker for allowing me to do this. I asked him, can we do a series for Black History Month recognizing living Black history? And so we're doing this series, this Living Black History series. And the purpose of the series is to recognize those citizens who have defied the odds and overcome many obstacles to obtain what some would consider very, very difficult and successes. With that, Mr. Speaker, I request that the clerk read the resolution.
Mr. Clerk, please read the resolution.
House Joint Resolution 662 by Representative Cooper and others, a resolution to honor and commend Dr. Kennard D. Brown for his laudable achievements as a healthcare executive. Whereas this General Assembly takes pride in honoring those esteemed individuals who have dedicated their professional careers and personal excellence to improving the quality of their life for their fellow citizens. And whereas Dr. Brown is one such noteworthy person who has distinguished himself as a professional of the greatest dedication, ability, and integrity throughout his illustrious career in healthcare administration. And whereas as the Executive Vice Chancellor and Chief Operations Officer of the University of Tennessee Health Science Center since 2004, Dr. Brown serves as the Chief Administrative and Operations Officer of the UTHSC campus with responsibility for providing leadership in the day-to-day operations of the 40-acre campus in Memphis. And whereas Dr. Brown previously served as Director of the Office of Equity and Diversity and Director of Employee Relations and Staff Development at the UTHSC from 1998 to 2004, and he was a member of the University of Tennessee Research Foundation Board of Directors from 2013 to 2016, a member of the Methodist Hospital Foundation Board of Directors from 2010 to 2011, a member of the Church Health Center Board of Directors from 2009 to 2010, and Executive Director for the Center for Health Disparities from 2001 to 2002. And whereas his notable faculty assignments include terms as Assistant Professor, Department of Surgery Transplant Institute at the UTHSC College of Medicine, where he has served since 2008, and Assistant Professor, UTHSC College of Pharmacy, in which capacity he served since 2004. And whereas throughout his estimable career, Dr. Brown has demonstrated the utmost professionalism, ability, and integrity, and it is fitting that the members of this General Assembly should pause in their deliberations to specially recognize this outstanding Tennessean. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the House of Representatives of the 112th General Assembly of the State of Tennessee, Senate concurring, that we honor and commend Dr. Brown for his manifold achievements as a healthcare executive, salute his professional expertise and personal excellence, and wish him all the best in his future endeavors.
Representative Parkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank Representative Barbara Cooper for bringing Dr. Brown to our attention to be recognized for this great honor. Thank you, Representative Cooper. And members, Dr. Brown, I call him Ken Brown, Dr. Kennard Brown is the first African-American in the administration at the University of Tennessee Health Science Center. He's the first African-American to graduate with a PhD in health outcomes and research at the Research Center at the University of Tennessee Health Science Center. Dr. Brown turned the University of Tennessee Health Science Center into a nationally recognized healthcare workforce training ground, not only for the state of Tennessee, but nationally. And Mr. Speaker, if you will, please allow Dr. Brown to say some words.
Dr. Brown, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Representative Cooper and Representative Parkinson. You know, the only thing I can say to you all is thank you for all the support that you've given to the University of Tennessee. It's the University of Tennessee that has allowed me to do the work that I do for the great state of Tennessee. And for that, I am very appreciative. So thank you.
Representative Parkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was hoping that Dr. Brown would tell just a little bit of his story, but you see he's a man of a few words, right? But we are extremely proud of Dr. Brown and all that he brings, not only to the state of Tennessee, but also to the county of Shelby and the city of Memphis and UT Health Science Center, where we put out the doctors and the medical staff and the nurses and the mental health professionals and more. Thank you so much. Mr. Speaker, thank you so much. And if you will, come down and take a picture with us also. Thank you so much.
Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Introduction of resolutions.
Leader Lambert, you're
Thank you,
recognized.
Mr. Speaker. Move that all resolutions properly filed be introduced pursuant to Rule number 17 and placed on the consent calendar or referred to the appropriate standing committee.
Without objection, so ordered. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Senate Joint Resolutions congratulatory and memorializing.
Leader Lambert, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move that all Senate joint resolutions congratulatory and memorializing in line on the desk be placed on the consent calendar pursuant to Rule number 17.
Without objection, so ordered. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Resolutions lying over.
Leader Lambert, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move that all resolutions lying over be referred to the appropriate standing committee.
Without objection, so ordered. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Introduction of bills, Senate bills on first consideration.
Leader Lambert, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move that Senate bills 1,709, 1,710, 1,711, 1,714, 1,715, 1,716, 1,720, 1,721, 1,729, 1,735, 1,739, 1,741, and 1,745 transmitted by the Senate be held on the desk pending third consideration of their companion House bills.
Without objection, so ordered. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Senate bills on second consideration, House bills on second consideration.
Leader Lambert, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move that House bills 1,605, 1,606, 1,608, and 2,513 through 2,880 be passed on second consideration and be held on the desk or referred to the appropriate standing committee.
Without objection, so ordered. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Petitions and memorials, reports from standing committees, reports from select committees, calendars. Mr. Speaker, the House has a consent calendar.
Chairman Zachary, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We pass the consent calendar, a third and final consideration in keeping with Rule 50.
Gentleman moves passage of the consent calendar. Properly seconded. Mr. Clerk, any objections been filed?
Mr. Speaker, no objections filed.
Anyone seeking recognition on the consent calendar? Seeing none, we're voting on the consent calendar. All members in favor vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed vote no. Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 95, no nays.
Having received a constitutional majority, I declare the consent calendar passed without objection. The motion to reconsider is tabled. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, the House has a regular calendar.
Call up first bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 1677 by Chairman Sapicki relative to notice requirements.
Chairman Savicki, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage of House Bill 1677 on third and final consideration.
Chairman Spiggy moves passage, properly seconded. Mr. Clerk, call it first amendment.
House Local Government Committee Amendment Number 1.
Chairman Crawford, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The amendment rewrites the bill. I move adoption of Local Government Committee Amendment Number 1 and defer to the sponsor for an explanation.
Chairman Crawford moves adoption of amendment number 1, properly seconded. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none. All those in favor of amendment number 1 say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. You adopted. Next amendment, Ms. Clark.
Mr. Speaker, no further amendments.
Chairman Spiggy, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 1677 establishes certain notice requirements for special meetings of the county legislative body. When a notice cannot be obtained in a newspaper of the county or by personal notices sent by the county clerk in a manner timely enough to conduct the necessary business of the special meeting, requires the county legislative body in such instances to 1, post a notice in a public location and on an actively maintained website by the county, if they have a website. 2, include in the notice a reasonable description of the meeting or action to be taken. And 3, post a notice at a time sufficiently in advance of the special called meeting. I appreciate this amendment put forth by the Open, Transparent Government and the Press Association. Mr. Speaker, I renew my motion.
Chairman Spiggy renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Seeing none. Any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor of House Bill 1677 as amended, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. As a member voted, as a member wish to change vote. Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 95, no nays.
House Bill 1677, having received the constitutional majority, I hereby declare it passed without objection. The motion to reconsider is tabled. Call up next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 1731 by Chairman Wendell relative to state symbols.
Chairman Wendell, at your desk.
Mr. Speaker, Representative Weaver and I request this bill be moved to Thursday's calendar.
Without objection, move to Thursday's calendar. Call up next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Joint Resolution 744 by Representative Griffey, a resolution to honor Hank Williams Jr. on the occasion of the induction into the Country Music Hall of Fame.
Representative Griffey, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for adoption of HJR 744.
Representative Griffey moves adoption. Properly seconded. Mr. Clerk, any amendments been filed?
Mr. Speaker, no amendments filed.
Representative Griffey, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, House Joint Resolution 744 is our opportunity to honor Hank Williams Jr. on his induction into the Country Music Hall of Fame by the Country Music Association on November 21st, 2021. I renew my motion.
Representative Griffey renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Representative Dixie, you're recognized.
Hello, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yeah, a couple of questions. So, are you a NFL football fan?
Representative Griffey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do like NFL football.
So
Chairman Dixie.
So you're familiar with, for over 20 years, he sung the Monday Night Football. Are you ready for some football? That thing for years, right?
Representative Griffey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, sir, I am.
Representative Dixie.
So do you know why he was removed from singing that?
Representative Griffey.
No, sir, I do not.
Representative Dixie.
Well, he was removed by ABC for some comments that he made that had some racial overtones. And I'll just read a couple of them to you. He compared former President Barack Obama to Hitler for playing golf with the Republican leadership. This is a direct quote. "We've got a Muslim for a president who hates cowboys, hates cowgirls, hates fishing, hates farming, loves gays. We hate him." Then in July 2012, he went on to say, "We got a president that does a call to the Quran or the Mecca or whatever." I understand that he was in the Hall of Fame, the Country Music Hall of Fame, but is this representative of the kind of person and behavior that represents Tennessee and what we're about as Tennesseans?
Representative Griffey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That's a determination for you to make. I'm here to recognize him for his country music
fame and his success in the country music industry and being a member of the Country Music Hall of Fame, just like his daddy was.
Representative Dixie.
Well, this is a high honor, and I take this very seriously when we do these resolutions, because we're putting him on a pedestal, saying you've done something so great. And I don't believe that what he's done totally, in totality, with these comments, represents everyone in this General Assembly, and it is fair to us as people to vote for this. So I'm asking you, I will not be supporting this bill for obvious reasons. And but if you continue to agree with that, and I would ask that everyone to look at their conscience and see if this is the person that is representative of that highest honor that we have, one of the highest honors that we have in this General Assembly.
Representative Griffey, anything?
Nothing further. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor of House Joint Resolution 744 vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Supiki, aye. Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Aye, 70, 19 nays, one present, not voting.
House Joint Resolution 744, having received a constant majority, I hereby declare adopted without objection. The motion to reconsider is tabled. Call up next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Joint Resolution 765 by Chairman Powers, a resolution to commemorate January 22nd, 2022 as the Day of Tears. Mr. Speaker, was previously considered and reset for today's regular calendar.
Chairman Powers, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move adoption of House H.J.R. 0765.
Chairman Powers moves adoption, properly seconded. Mr. Clerk, any amendments been filed?
Mr. Speaker, no amendments filed.
Chairman Powers, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On January the 22nd, 49 years ago, the U.S. Supreme Court made a ruling that abortion was a right under the 14th Amendment. Since that day, over 62 million babies have been lost. That is more lives than the entire population of Canada. The Day of Tears commemorates that day and hopes to bring awareness to the issue and hopes to encourage adoption as an alternative. With that, Mr. Speaker, I renew my motion.
Chairman Powers renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Representative Parkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can the resolution be read?
Representative Powers, any objection? Without objection. Mr. Clerk.
House Joint Resolution 765 by Chairman Powers, resolution to commemorate January 22nd, 2022 as the Day of Tears. Whereas on January 22nd, 1973, the majority of the members of the United States Supreme Court ruled that abortion was a right secured by the United States Constitution. And whereas since that fateful day, over 62 million children have perished, now therefore be it resolved by the House of Representatives of the 112th General Assembly of the State of Tennessee, the Senate concurring, that we join with the Day of Tears Incorporated in the commemoration of January 22nd, 2022 as the Day of Tears. Be it further resolved that an appropriate copy of this resolution be prepared for presentation with its final clause omitted from such copy, and upon proper request made to the appropriate clerk, the language appearing immediately following the state seal will appear without House or Senate designation.
Any further discussion? Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just had a parliamentary question. This resolution before us, how did it end up on the House floor in this posture?
Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, as this resolution commemorates the day, joining with citizens and congratulating the Day of Tears Incorporated, it was included on the consent calendar. There is a difference between commemorating a day and designating a day.
Representative Williams.
So was this resolution bumped off the consent calendar, and that's why we're hearing it today? And if so, who was the member who bumped it?
Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, I believe that was Chairman Dixie.
Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Any further discussion? Any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor of House Joint Resolution 765 vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed vote no. As every member voted, does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Aye, 72, 20 nays, one present, not voted.
House Joint Resolution 765 and received a constitutional majority. I hereby declare adopted without objection. The motion to reconsider is tabled. Call up next bill, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, that completes the regular calendar.
Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Unfinished business.
Unfinished business. Representative Moon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move that the rules be suspended for immediate introduction and consideration of House Resolution 139.
Mr. Clerk, read the caption.
House Resolution 139 by Chairman Moon and others, a resolution to commend and honor Hungarian Ambassador to the United States, Szolibaj Takaj.
You've heard the caption. Any objections? Without objection, the rules are suspended. Representative Moon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move adoption of House Resolution 139.
Representative Moon moves adoption of House Resolution 139. Properly seconded. Any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor of House Resolution 139 say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. I declare it adopted without objection. The motion to reconsider is tabled. Representative Halsey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to withdraw HJR 709 from the committee in the House.
You've heard the motion. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move to withdraw House Bill 1659 from the committee and from the House.
You've heard the motion. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Representative Farmer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In consultation with both leaders, I move that the rules be suspended for immediate introduction and consideration of House Resolution 142.
Mr. Clerk, please read the caption.
House Resolution 142 by Chairman Farmer, a resolution to commemorate February 5th through 12th, 2022 as Tennessee Court Reporting and Captioning Week.
You've heard the caption. Any objections? Without objection, the rule is suspended. Representative Farmer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move adoption of House Resolution 142.
Representative Farmer moves adoption of House Resolution 142. Properly seconded. Any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor of House Resolution 142 say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. I declare adopted without objection. The motion to reconsider is tabled. Representative Powers. Representative Powers, you're recognized.
I'm sorry, mine would go under announcements.
Okay, we'll come back to you. Anybody under unfinished? No. All right. Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, we have a message from the Senate. Mr. Speaker, I'm directed to return to the House, House Bill 411, substitute for the Senate bill on the same subject, amended and passed by the Senate.
Thursday's message calendar. Mr. Clerk.
Message from the Senate. Mr. Speaker, I'm directed to return to the House, House Bill 920, substituted for the Senate bill on the same subject, amended and passed by the Senate.
Thursday's message calendar. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Announcements.
Announcements. Representative Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Banking and Consumer Affairs Subcommittee will hear all social media related bills on Wednesday, March the 2nd. So if you have a bill assigned to Banking and Consumer Affairs Subcommittee relating to social media issues only, please put it on notice by Wednesday, February the 23rd. And if you have any questions, just reach out. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Representative Parkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, one of the greatest celebrations that takes place here at the Tennessee State Capitol will take place on Wednesday morning at about 8 a.m. It's Ties for Turns. And Mr. Speaker, let me thank each and every person that has donated ties. I think we got a big load of them today. I forgot which member came up and told me that they were his, but I truly appreciate you. And I appreciate each and every other member that has donated ties. It's going to be a great pool this year. Also, Mr. Speaker, we did get a tie from the governor, and I'm not sure if the Speaker McNally sent his tie in yet, Mr. Speaker. But we are looking forward to your tie donation to Ties for Turns, Mr. Speaker. And looking forward to you coming down also to have breakfast with us and the interns and all of the rest of the members. Chairman Faison, he shows up every year. We appreciate him. We show the interns how to tie ties and just fellowship with them so that they know they are loved and appreciated. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Looking forward to your tie coming to my office tomorrow because we ain't got but one day left. Thank you, sir.
Representative, best is always last. So, Representative Halford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In addition to the already announced presentations
in the House Agriculture and Natural Resources Committee Wednesday at 2 o'clock. We will be hearing from the Forestry Division. It's always a very, very interesting discussion. And so we invite anybody that might be interested to join us at 2 o'clock in room 3.
Thank you. Any further announcements? Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Roll call.
Roll call. Ms. Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 95 members present.
Next order, Mr. Clerk.
That completes the regular order, Mr. Speaker.
Leader Gant, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House stand in recess until 9 a.m. on Thursday, February 10th, 2022.
Without objection, the House stands in recess till 9 a.m. on Thursday, February 10th, 2022.